Hi, this is Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Thanking you for checking out this series, this trauma and healing series brought to you by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative.
Welcome back for another episode of the BB Dub Youth Chats. This is the Brother Be Well platform. I'm your host, Justin Martinez. I'm very excited to talk about our topic today on trauma, mental health, and me. And I'm very excited to introduce a gentleman who will be helping us out this morning, Patrick Ma. How you doing today, Patrick?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you, Justin. How are you?
Very well, very well. Thank you as well. Couldn't be more excited to have you here. And Mustafa, our youth, our insight, all of our incredible, exciting people that are here today. How you doing today, Mustafa?
I am doing phenomenal. Excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, let's jump right into it. We're here to talk about trauma, mental health, and me. I want to open the door for just to let you in on a little background on my life as the oldest of four siblings, and I'm the first in my family to graduate from high school and graduate from college. I graduated this May with my psychology degree from San Francisco State. Thank you, Patrick. But a little bit of the trauma and dysfunction of my background starts with domestic violence in my home from the beginning of my life all the way into my young adult life. And that resulted in me and my four siblings going into foster care when I was 15. So the odds and the probabilities really stacked up against me when I came out of foster care, and I had to make a choice on if I was gonna, pursue an education and set a good example for my family or go down a different road. But I chose to go pursue my education, and it's the best decision I ever made in my life. So I just wanted to share that with you all, and I'll open up the floor to anyone else who wants to share some insight on their background.
So my name is Patrick Ma. I am currently a physician assistant at the UC Davis Dermatology Department. Similar to Justin, I am the first to graduate from high school here in the US, got my bachelor degree as well as my master, and now I am a physician assistant. As far as trauma, is just so much that was going on. Actually, put up several videos, ones with the Walking Our Shoes Dark Org project. And then also speak on multiple multimedia campaigns, TV, radio. My story is quite extensive, so I don't think we can cover it in 45 minutes. But just a little bit of background. I am living with depressions and have attempted several suicide attempts. But through all of that, it was a lot of that was because of the trauma that I experienced with my father, who was an alcoholic and abusive dad, and my mother, who abandoned me at a very young age. Living in a third world country, half of the time, you don't know where your next meal would come from, or where you would, how you would attend shelter for the next day, and where would you go. So there's a lot of trauma, and we can certainly talk more about it and explore it a bit more. If, like Mustafa or Justin, you can relate to my story, and we can share more about that and talk about the impact that it has on our mental health. But yeah, it's been quite a journey to get to where I am.
As for me, I'm a high school student. My older brothers actually finished high school. My mother actually did finish high school. My dad didn't have finish high school, so we have not really well-educated family, I guess you could say. My dad doesn't know how to read or write, so I have to translate and read or write for him. And I came from a third world country. It was at war, still is at war. A lot of had my sister. My sister died. My brother can't really walk anymore. My dad has cancer, so on and so forth. These things happen to me back and forth every day, and I try to deal with it as much as possible. Usually a lot of pressure on me since I'm trying to get to college. No one really got in college in my family, even though my mom is trying to help me learn, and she has a limit of not knowing some subjects, and I try to learn the best as possible, as most as possible. So there are difficulties there and here and there, and I try to work around with.
Incredible, Mustafa. Thank you for being so brave and courageous in sharing your story, as well as you, Patrick. I feel like I can relate to you both on many levels, but I think the one underlined connection that I have with you both is what I hear from both of our story, all three of our stories, is that there's a lot of intergenerational trauma that is passed down to us from our parents, from our grandparents, and from our lineage, and from our environment, from our culture. All of that plays a role, and it's definitely played a role in my life. In particularly, my grandfather on my father's side, my paternal grandfather, was an orphan. So he was in foster care. They call it an orphanage back in the 1930s, from 5 to 18 years old. And, he he was in the Korean War as a printer, and he got out of the war and started printing his own money. And, that's illegal. He got a 15-year prison sentence for it. And at the timing and intensity of when he went to prison was when my father was 13 years old, and that affected him in his own way. And he didn't see my grandfather until he was 21. And, at that point, he's a grown man at that time, and he didn't really build a relationship or a connection or deep love for my grandfather. He actually hated and resented him and was very angry with my grandfather. And then that led into him marrying my mother and, having me as his first son, but also being in a lot of pain from not dealing with his traumas. So he was abusive towards my mother. And those types of abuse that I've witnessed growing up are episodic memories that I could never forget. I'll always remember those. And that's what really stayed with me as I grew older, and I started to doubt myself of if I was going to be an educated individual, if I was going to repeat the same cycle as my father and be an abusive man. So it definitely gets passed down, but I relate to you both on that side of things. So I feels like, we've all took that decision and that choice to take control of our life and to do something other than what is expected for us.